I'll go a little more deep in describing what perception is to make the whole story more clearer in what I want to convey you. You must have heard of sensation, and then we have perception, right? Sensation, what is sensation? That is immediate, relatively unprocessed information which is a result of stimulation of sensory receptors in the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, or skin, or maybe few other things which Allah knows. Right? So the information that we get from our sensational tools or receptors, we call five senses like eyes, ears, nose, tongue, or skin, right? We receive the information, but this information is just information. This is processed in our brains where we have the processing ability, or maybe what we can say in our hearts, in our qulub, which we feel is the seat of our perceptual framework. They get processed over there, and then we develop any judgment. So when we say perception, the process by which organisms interpret and organize sensation to produce a meaningful experience of the world. I repeat, the process by which organisms interpret and organize sensation to produce a meaningful experience of the world. That is perception, right? Our processing, our analyzing ability is our perception. Thus, perception in humans describe the process whereby sensory stimulation is translated into organized meaning. Okay, when we talk of perception, is it possible for our brain or our qalb? I do not know how qalb is attached to the brain, but as we have seen in the Holy Quran in our first session, basically, and we will see inshallah ta'ala a little further also. Oh, okay, I have not done qalb, so we'll be doing qalb inshallah ta'ala after a few slides, and we'll see that qalb plays a very important role when we talk of perceptual framework of perception, because all the scriptures, including Holy Quran and Hadith, say that qalb is the basic seat of perception. Okay, now just look at this. Our eyes can handle 5 million bits per second, but a human mind can only process 500 bits per second. So what do you think? What is happening? Only eyes is receiving 5 million bits per second of information. Every second we are receiving 5 million bits. But our mind is not ready for that. Mind is only, it can work at a speed of 500 bits per second. So what do you think what will happen? Right? It applies that a human being has to have a process of selection or perception selectivity. What will decide these 500 bits among the 5 million bits to select to process? And that is our perception. That will depend upon what we prioritize. There are a few more factors that we will discuss. We are selective in what to hear, what to see, and what to think. It's mainly our perception which decides this selection. Human learning is the most important and overarching factor. Okay, so it's basically our learning, our past learning, which has developed our present state of mind or perceptual framework, which decides what information really to process. Talking of perceptual selectivity, factors that govern the selection of stimuli can be few external factors and a few internal factors. External factors can be the size of the thing, that has come before us. Small things you may not observe, but if something of a bigger size comes, we observe and we think on that, right? That gets selected. It can be the intensity or by the force it has been impinged on us, like a bomb blast. If there is a blast, you are helpless, you will think about the blast. Okay, you will select that information. Contrast is there, how it is contrasted to the environment, novelty of an information, how novel it is, then the movement, the speed, maybe the vertical movement can make us, give more importance to certain things. And when we talk of internal factors, we have learning, motivation, memory, personality, perceptual framework, etc., etc. Right? But learning or our past learning is the most important factors in what is happening right now. There are so many things happening around you, but only few things that you select to really analyze and process. Okay, and when we say of learning, that is our present state of mind or perceptual framework. We, like this frame which I am showing you, I am sure you are about 35 to 50 participants of the course. Each thing has, each person will have a different view of different things that are being mentioned over here, right? And that is the result of his past learning. Once past learning is the most important and overarching factor in perceptual selectivity and in the creation of perceptual filters which will decide what information to filter in. We just take the example of eye, this diagram. Through your eye, you see certain figures, right? There are certain lines, certain figure, certain reflections which enter your eyes, and it is reflected on the back of your eye and goes to your brain, and you get an image. But what is the image? What is it indicating? How are you going to judge it is what your analytical brain will decide, right? And that will depend upon your past memory and your past learning. So when you analyze an information received from the eye, you develop an interpretation, and that will be anyone's unique interpretation, because each one of you has a different, your perceptual framework differs to an extent, right? You have your own visions, your own method of interpretation, your own past experiences, which will make you give a judgment for something that you have seen. I wanted to clarify what is actually happening when you get information from any of your receptors. They may be 5 or maybe more than 5. Okay, you are receiving information, right? Trying to analyze it. One of the most important factors in your analyzation is your logic framework. You try to see that whether what has happened or what you have experienced make any logic to you. Very important, right? And this logic framework is profoundly affected by your perception, your perceptual framework. It is your perceptual framework which greatly influences your logic framework. I believe we have a very basic logic framework which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created even before we were born, like we have seen in the ayat of Alastu bi Rabbikum, Surah Al-Ahzab. So he has given us some logic framework, but that logic framework will be influenced by our experiences, or what experiences we intentionally put ourselves through in this world. And the final logic framework will be the basic logic framework plus the influences, and that is what is going to decide whether a thing makes sense to you or not. Does anyone has does everyone has same logic framework? You know the answer. You have atheist, agnostic, and the believer. Do they have the same logic framework? Can we internalize anything without passing it through our logic or framework, our logic framework or perceptual filter, or what we call the process of rationalization? Is it possible if something doesn't come to your logic and you're told to internalize it, will you internalize it? Maybe they can force you just to say or just to believe, okay, I believe. If I don't believe, maybe I am in trouble. But that will not affect your personality, that will not affect your behavior, right? So, for anything to enter, to go beneath the skin, as Rumi says, that has to pass, that has to, match your logic framework, that has to make logic to you.